Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again in this YouTube astrological segment. We'll be talking about transit Jupiter, sextile or trine one's natal Uranus. Now, this transit could manifest in optimism, enthusiasm, truth, veracity, joviality, and luck. Could be in harmony with friendships. I'm going to elaborate and expound on that. It could be a very fortuitous time for friendships, finding the ones that can be beneficial to you, the ones that can have a positive impact on your life. It could also be a time where it's easier to express benevolence and philanthropy to these people as well, to just express general goodwill toward your friends at this time and for even expanding upon them. It's a time too where you may be optimistic in regarding friendships, but not to a point where you're over optimistic or unrealistic in terms of who you can have as making as far as friendships go, or the amount of people that you can have as far as friends go in X amount of time. And it's like it's a time where you have um, more exuberance and enthusiasm in these matters as well. Sports, with friends and groups, it's more of a time for that if you're somebody that's interested in sports, even if it's on a recreational level. No, most of you, I don't even know if anybody out there that sees this video is going to be a professional athlete, but there are a number. I'm sure there's some people out there that are going to watch this video that are interested in sports on a recreational level, and it's a time where it may be positive for being involved in sports with friends, or even joining like a group that could be sports related. If it's like, say, if the transit Jupiter is in Gemini, it could be a sport that requires like the quick reactions and responses, like badminton or table tennis, as some examples. And it can also be a time when you have this transit. It's also about being very positive and optimistic regarding goals and aspirations. It's not about being unrealistic. It can be a time where you feel, the optimism, the enthusiasm, the exuberance in terms of joining. It could be joining groups or just the simple pursuit of your goals and aspirations at this time. The natal Uranus is in Capricorn as an example. It could be doing something with business or information technology, accounting, dentistry, masonry, maybe doing something with politics or the government as some other examples. And it's also about having the right amount of optimism in pursuing your future. It's a time where being progressive, it's could be very positive for that, as long as you're forward moving. It can be a very positive time for that when you have this transit. And it could also be a good time, considering Jupiter is about publishing. It could be a good time for publishing something Uranus related. It could be doing something with astrology or astronomy, or something with computers or innovative ideas, things associated with aviation, some examples. And it's also a time to having that enthusiasm, the exuberance to pursue freedom and independence as well. If you've been in a situation where you've been, penned up, or you feel confined, or you're in a situation, say, you're dealing, with somebody that's, it's a family member, perhaps in some, instances that might be overly domineering, controlling, and you need to try to extricate yourself from that situation. This could be an opportune time to do so, because Jupiter is fortuitous. It's a planet of luck and fortune, and Uranus is connected with freedom and independence. Now, another thing too, it can also be a positive time, very auspicious for matters that are associated. If you have any of these problems anatomically connected with Uranus, those can include the ankles, calves, shins, nerves, and circulation. Sometimes even could be some kind of unusual protrusion or growth. And these are things that can be, it's more fortuitous in general, for dealing with them. If you have, whether it's simply, finding out the truth regarding them, whether the news might be more auspicious regarding these matters, or whether you're just having more optimism in dealing with it. It's something where it can be more positive in these matters. If there was some surgery that was involved with anything I just described anatomically connected with Uranus, it could be more propitious for that. And maybe in terms of the recovery and recuperation. Uh, Another thing too, this is also a time where it can be prosperity, through Uranus related things. It could be astrology, astronomy, computers, or innovation. Um, if you have, if the natal Uranus, say, is in Pisces as an example, it could be something, innovative associated with like vaporizers or some kind of fishing equipment, something that's, Pisces related. In general, if the natal Uranus is in Aquarius, it could be an innovative item associated with computers or electronics, or even astronomy, as some examples. And it's also a time where it can be simply more positive in dealing with things that happen spontaneously and unpredictably. It's a time where you may be you're more upbeat about dealing with these matters. It can be where you come up, you have a way to deal with those matters more so than you ordinarily would. It's a time where you're not necessarily going to go to pieces and lose your composure in dealing with things that are spontaneous. You might be more exuberant, actually, and enthusiastic about dealing with things that happen spontaneously, that happen just on the fly, unpredictably at this time. And it could also apply to dealing with things that are just very in your life in general, that are sporadic and erratic. If you have, your natal, Uranus in the sixth house, like I do, it could simply be something in your daily routine. It could be health related situation. In anything, that's sixth house related, even with pets. In some cases, I don't have any pets, but if I had any, it might be a situation with them that might be erratic and sporadic. It's something I may never know because I may never even have another pet in my life. But anyway, this is a time too where it could be just very fortuitous for group related involvement. If you have the natal Uranus and Scorpio, it can be occult related groups such as something with astrology, or it might be something with locksmithing or psychology, as some examples, or something with forensics and investigation. And this is the time where you may feel more optimistic and just dealing with society at this time and getting out there, and where you feel more compatible, more harmonious with society at this time, more so than usual. If you meet somebody that feels, if you're someone that might have felt ostracized or felt like you were left out or isolated by others, this could be that time to get outside and be able to integrate and merge with society and feel more positive in doing so at this time, more so than you ordinarily would. Now, Uranus is also connected, with non-conforming behavior and rebelliousness. If you have your natal Uranus in the fifth house as an example, it could be dealing with a non-conforming or rebellious child, and it can be that time where it may be, again, more auspicious, more fortuitous in dealing with it at this time, more so than you ordinarily would. And it could be just the simple expression of goodwill, will, and joviality can play a big role in doing so. Um, anyway, well, another way this transit may manifest, it could be about being enthusiastic, which is Jupiter, about pursuing your goals and aspirations, which is Uranus. Again, going back to natal Uranus and Scorpio as an example, it could be something with locksmithing or the occult, which includes astrology or psychology, even forensics or investigation, something that involves deep research, as some examples. And it's also could be a time or it could be very auspicious for finding out the truth, which is Jupiter. It could be about a friend, which is Uranus. Now, if Uranus is in Sagittarius, It could be a friend that might be very self-righteous or reckless, even flighty. But on the positive side, it might be somebody that you're discovering positive traits, such as a person that's very jocular, jovial, optimistic, has certain ability for sports, and is just a simply very philosophical and positive person. Hold on a moment, people. Sorry about that, I'm back. But anyway, now another way that this transit may be expressed, it could be where one can easily express humor, which is Jupiter, in groups or clubs, which is Uranus. If the natal Uranus is in Capricorn, as an example, it could be business groups that are older. It could be a business group, I should say, or it could be one with older people, a political or government group, maybe one associated with information technology. And it could also be a time for prosperity, which is Jupiter. And it could be in innovation, which is Uranus. If Uranus is in Aquarius, it could be something with computers, electronics, aerospace, astronomy as some examples. And it could also be a time where it could be very propitious for sports, which is Jupiter, with friends, which is Uranus. Now, if Jupiter is in Scorpio, transit Jupiter in Scorpio, it could be extreme sports or like deep diving as some examples. And it's also a time where it can be fortuitous, which is Jupiter, for group related matters. If it's something with, say if you have Uranus in Libra, it could be some group connected with the art or connected with art, the law. It could be tennis or gymnastics or fashion design as some examples. Anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, Edwin Learnard saying, stay well.